A lot of people online have expressed their concerns with Nikola, a lot of them thinking they're going to be the next generation of Theranos, and that there's essentially a lot of red flags going up. There's a lot of scammy things we're hearing about Nikola, and the list goes on and on and on, whether it's claiming that you have next generation energy density in these groundbreaking batteries, and then looking at what your website is claiming and seeing that the numbers don't add it up at all. In an interview, Trevor Milton talking about how, well, if you go with an EV, you're going to lose 60 to 70% of your range while towing, but if you go with a hydrogen vehicle, it's 600 miles when you're not towing and 300-mile range when you are, so I guess it's still a 50% range loss, and then claiming Cybertruck can only tow 100 miles on a charge. The numbers don't really add up, and I think it kind of makes sense if you consider in podcast, Trevor has admitted that he can't read books, he can only read paragraphs. Yeah, that's a real quote, and the only revenue recognized of the company is selling a solar panel system to Trevor Milton. Also, the groundbreaking ceremony taking place a few months ago in saying construction starts today, and then only to find out they have no permits submitted to the city, and they're not allowed to start construction anytime soon. So they've basically moved some dirt around, and they had this great ceremony hyping up how their factory production is going to begin, only for it to just be an empty field for months and months now. So all kinds of red flags surrounding the company, and they did meet with a lot of YouTubers and people who are very active on Twitter to showcase them and give them a factory tour, and also showcase, hey, this vehicle prototype Nikola hydrogen truck we have built, it does drive. Let us show you by driving around 20 miles an hour through the parking lot. And also, we're not really going to fill up the hydrogen tanks for safety reasons, which opens up a whole other can of worms to be like, hydrogen is the future and hydrogen makes sense and we're the experts at hydrogen because we've figured out a way to lower the cost of it drastically. We just haven't done it yet. We just, in principle, on paper, it makes sense that the numbers will get this low once we have economies of scale. But yeah, when we're testing the prototype, we can't put too much hydrogen in there because it's dangerous and it might explode. Can you imagine if Tesla did something like that? I mean, just imagine the Cybertruck unveiling and then people get in the car and then they drive it around the parking lot saying, okay, we can't take it over 20 miles an hour because we don't want the motors to catch on fire. I think people would have a lot more concerns with that type of unveiling. And also the people they invited to tour Nikola's facility had to sign NDAs, and there was a lot of information they weren't allowed to disclose. We could go back and forth on hydrogen working in electric vehicles these days because Trevor pointed out some math that works on Twitter versus a bunch of people online pointing out that it adds more complexity and it doesn't make sense to do hydrogen. I mean, if you're personally asking what I think, yeah, I think the most simple process is to just charge the battery in the car with the electrical grid we have everywhere that we can contribute to with solar panels, compared to generating mass amounts of hydrogen and having to drive that hydrogen everywhere and refuel it for everyone. Heck, even companies that have mass-produced hydrogen fuel cell vehicles have decided, yeah, you know what, this isn't going to make much sense, we're not going to do it. And that's a proven automaker, Toyota, by the way, that's like, hey, we tried hydrogen and I don't think this is a good idea. But Nikola, who has delivered 0 vehicles to consumers or businesses, they're convinced it can work through economies of scale, which they have not done yet. And Trevor has a whole laundry list of statements that I could go through and explain how they don't make sense. Whether he's claiming he can out Elon or saying Tesla's business model is built completely around speculation, whereas Nikola's is built based on profit, despite the fact that Tesla has been profitable for the last 4 quarters and Nikola hasn't delivered anything. So which one is speculation? Which one is profitability? I don't get it. But the real problem at the end of the day, I think, is that Nikola is too focused on their image. They're too built around their stock and getting people to buy into their stock. Anytime you talk to Trevor, he wants to bring up how buying Nikola stock is equivalent to buying Tesla stock. And we've seen this surge with EV startups and reverse mergers and going public and that kind of stuff, and make people think, oh, this is going to be the next big thing, so I better start investing. Like when people ask Trevor why they were interested in making the Badger, the primary reasoning was they knew that if they just made semi-trucks that were hydrogen, they would never get that interested of investors, like from people on Robinhood, and the everyday casual investor would never care about Nikola, which is probably right. But for their logic to be, okay, we're going to build the Badger so that more people invest in the stock, just seems like the logic is flawed. It doesn't seem like the motivation is to accelerate, sustainable energy. It's like, how do we get people to buy the stock? And even through direct messages, I've seen seen people share of Trevor responding to individuals on Instagram, people will just ask about upcoming products like, hey, you said this would be available in 2020 and it's not here yet. He will talk about how people don't believe in them and they don't realize how good we are and we're so good and we're so amazing. You just need to buy the stock and you will become so rich. Too much talk. That's the main issue, which is why even if Trevor watched this and said, you know what, I would love to sit down and have an interview with Drew today and I can explain to him my logic, that's not going to help you. I don't think that's what you need to do right now, because the fundamental issue so many people keep coming back to with Nikola, no action. It doesn't matter if you want to talk all day or invite people over to your factory and say, hey, look at this prototype we built. It's real. This is a prototype, and it's real. You can touch it. This is so real. Everything is real. Here's some photos I tweeted of a chair, okay? The Badger is super duper real, guys, because this chair exists. That doesn't matter, because as Elon has talked about himself, building one of something is super relatively easy. Mass producing it is 1,000 to 10,000% harder, and any company that has really looked into the numbers of mass producing hydrogen fuel cell vehicles and trying to make the economics of that work can't seem to do it in execution. You may be able to look at a few pieces of paper and do the math yourself and be like, well, if we sell 700 of these and we make hydrogen at this caliber, then it'll work, right? It'll just work because I did the math. Okay, do it. I don't want to hear about why you want to do it. I don't want to hear about how you're vertically integrated, but at the same time counting on other companies to do the work for you, which also bothers me because everything Trevor talks about always seems to come back to it's about the stock because there's so little risk in our company. There's so little risk. It's all built around profitability because we're relying on other companies to build our vehicles for us, or we're relying on other companies to produce the hydrogen, build out our fuel cell network, and we get paid and they do the work and we don't have to think about it. But at the same time, we're also vertically integrated, start to finish. You know, no one else has thought of a plan so thorough, but thinking of plans, sadly, doesn't get you very far in life. Execution is what gets you far. And if Nikola is annoyed or upset that so many people see them as a scam or doubt their technology or doubt the legitimacy of the business, that's because you failed in a way. It doesn't matter if people are right or wrong with their assumptions about Nikola. What matters is this is the public persona. This is what people think of you. And having people over or arguing with people on Twitter or blocking people on Twitter because they don't see your vision, that doesn't help the situation. What would help is action, building things, actually producing things, and not just claiming we're building 700 hydrogen fuel cell vehicle plants across the United States. Where are the permits? Where are these locations going to be? How are you building them? Who is building them? Doesn't matter. It's just, I said so. And the plan is to do this. So it's all left to be done in execution. The truth is, lots of people were skeptical of Tesla at first. And you know what? Rightfully so. Automotive companies are not easy things to do, especially electric, zero emission automotive companies. Most of the time they go bankrupt. Very rarely do they become profitable. And the only time people start believing in Elon or start believing in Tesla is when they start seeing results. It's not because Elon argued well enough. It's not because Elon had enough people touring the Gigafactory that people went, well, Elon tweeted the right things and Elon showed the right people the right stuff and got them to sign the right NDAs. I guess we should start investing in Tesla now. No, it happened when Tesla started delivering the vehicles they promised and they started hitting the price points that they initially promised. Sometimes they're late on things, but they still can say they have over 1 million vehicles on the road right now. And frankly, Tesla has more vehicles in space than Nikola has in consumers' hands. I cannot emphasize that enough. In the case of Nikola, actions speak so much louder than words that honestly, there's two possible outcomes. One, they're completely a scam. They're hoping to make as much money off of the stock as possible and then completely jump off the face of the earth, like a lot of crypto scams and people who did the scams like Theranos, where they had no real actual product, but they were just hoping to get a bunch of money off of the situation and capitalize off of Tesla. And the fact that you branded the company as Nikola doesn't help your argument if your whole push is hydrogen, because Nikola Tesla had very little to do with hydrogen in the fuel cell. So the fact that you're naming your company very, very closely off of Tesla, which is very successful, already does not help your argument. And they're basically going to give everyone in the company as many shares as possible so that they can make a ton of money off of hyping stock. And that's why Trevor talks about investing in Nikola all the time, because that's really their end goal. It's not to really create products. It's just to get as much people investing them as possible. And the second alternative is the technology is real. They have a lot of great battery tech. They've got some hydrogen fuel cell tech that really could help change the semi-trucking industry and perhaps even make its way into some consumer grade pickup trucks and that kind of thing, or off-road off-road vehicles, but the marketing team, and Trevor Milton in particular, is doing just such a bad job advertising the company and pumping the stock and trying to get people to invest as much as possible that it's making the company look bad, okay? I really hope it's option 2. I'm not rooting for this company to be a giant scam. That's not what I want. It's just a lot of people are already coming to that conclusion, and the truth is it's not baseless. They have a lot of evidence to go for them, and a lot of really, really sketchy things that Nikola is being seen doing, whether it's selling the CEO solar panels and counting it as revenue, or being intentionally vague about reservations, or delaying everything for Nikola World, or claiming that you have next generation batteries that no one else on Earth is capable of reaching, but you just have the right guys, and that's how you were able to do it, and yet you're not going to go all in on batteries because hydrogen better on paper. People who are doubting Nikola and accusing them of being a scam company, they have valid points. And the truth is, tweeting at them, blocking them, or doing Instagram stories and complaining about people online and just getting into Twitter wars, that's not going to fix the situation. What would silence the people doubting Nikola, what would silence the people accusing them of being the next Theranos, is action. If Nikola just started delivering on some of the things they were promising, or actually just started doing a lot of the things they said they were going to do. So in my opinion, if Nikola is legit and they do actually have next generation technology and great engineers internally that can make something and add to the market and make it a better, more competitive space, my advice, change the name of the company. I'm sorry, that Nikola thing is never gonna sway me, and the fact that you're so close to Tesla with what your business is trying to be that you even tried to name it so closely, in my opinion, it would be like if Samsung decided to call themselves Banana to go against Apple. You know, it's just weird. Come up with a different, better name in the first place, and also stop talking. Stop pumping your stock all the time. Stop trying to convince everyone to invest. People will invest in your stock more if you actually start doing something, because that's why people are investing in Tesla, Trevor. It's not because Elon says the right things. It's because he does the right things. It's because they have a track record of unveiling a product with certain specs and delivering on it, and you don't have that. You don't get a bunch of people trusting and believing on you on your word alone, especially when Trevor in the first place doesn't have much of a successful track record with his previous businesses and has recently purchased one of the most expensive properties in Colorado with some of his company's profits. So credibility and people's trust in investing in you is earned, okay? It's not taken for granted from the beginning because you made the right Instagram posts. Also, the idea of taking reservations for a vehicle without even a prototype in existence is ridiculous. This whole reserve your Badger now on Nikola's website thing is so scammy to me because all they have is some pictures and some renders. I mean, I can't recall Tesla ever doing that in their history. So if you're wondering why people are doubting you more, Nikola, and why people aren't more doubtful of Tesla, it's because track record, actions. When the Cybertruck came out, it came out on stage, people could see it, and then afterwards people got in the truck and did 0 to 60 tests and drove it around. People could touch it. They could see it at the Peterson Automotive Museum. With the Badger, it's just like some guys with Photoshop, and you're already asking for money for it, and you've never delivered a vehicle before. So there's so much doubt, there's so much cause for concern on why people should either stay away from the stock or think the company is gonna implode within the next few years anyway. Whether it's because the company is actually a scam and hoping to get away with a bunch of money, or the marketing team is just botched and they're advertising things way too soon or talking way too much online. Either one is bad, okay? I don't care which option it is. It's not a good situation, so if you're legit, stop talking, stop making promises, and just start delivering. And if you are a scam company and you're just trying to capitalize off of young investors that don't know what they're doing, then what the heck is wrong with you? Do something with your life more meaningful than ripping people off. Anyway, that's my rant on Nikola. If many of you disagree, I apologize, but those are just my honest thoughts. But hopefully you guys can remember, just a guy with an opinion. Let's leave it at that. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care.